Hello there. Welcome into a Friday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you've chosen to listen on your radio, to stream the show online at extrasports1300.com, or if you've downloaded the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your take on them. 719-247-1313 is both the text and the phone line for your convenience. If you're watching on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300, you'll notice I'm a little bit more gussied up. Is that the right phrase? Gussied up tonight. I have the first Air Force hockey game of the year on altitude tonight. So I'll be doing that if you are so inclined to watch Tyler Mon and myself call that one Air Force against Arizona State. Of course, I would highly encourage you to do that or to listen. Either way, Jay Ritchie, Dave Toller will have the call tonight. Air Force and Arizona State should be a good one. I'll talk a little bit about that matchup later. I have tickets to tomorrow night's game of that two-game series to give away. I have a few remaining Air Force Navy tickets for tomorrow that I would love to give you. So there's a lot going on in a short amount of time. So let's get to this. Can we start with the football game last night? I don't know that there is a football team right now that is more must-watch television than the Atlanta Falcons. Every game they play comes down to the wire. There's some crazy things that happen. There's exciting things that happen. I mean, the Steelers game was a bit of a snoozer, in all honesty. But if you think about, JJ, I call him JJ, TJ Watt, and his dominance, certainly there was a curiosity factor. Wasn't a great game. I get that. But they had that game with the controversy of Nick Sirianni. What should he have done on 3rd and 4th down? Saquon Barkley with the drop, all that kind of stuff. The Falcons driving right down the field, winning that game against the Eagles. They had the game against the Chiefs where they went for it on 4th down and the Chiefs stopped them. Last night, Younghoe Koo wins them the game last week with the field goal. This week, he sends them into overtime, and Kirk Cousins completes a pass to a dude no one's ever heard of for what was a 40, 50-yard touchdown to win the game. For all this talk about how bad the NFL product is, those people aren't watching Falcons games, because the Falcons games that I watch, and not from a rooting perspective, I don't care whether the Falcons or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win last night. I do care that the Atlanta Falcons won by more than 2.5 points. Ahem. But I don't have a rooting interest in one team or another. And other than the Chiefs game, I don't care if the Falcons win all of their games or none of their games. I really don't. But their games are all good, all compelling, and seem to all come down to the wire. And if you're a fantasy owner of a certain tight end, could that have been the Kyle Pitts awakening? I don't know. They're just, part of me says no, just because there was so much working like Darnell Mooney. Raise your hand if you knew that Mooney was on the Falcons. Put your hands down, fantasy owners. That doesn't count. And also, how deep is your league that you have Darnell Mooney on your team? But Darnell Mooney's on that team, the dude that caught the touchdown pass on their team, and they still had enough in them. Kirk Cousins had enough in that arm of his to also have a prolific game with Drake London. 500 and something yards for Kirk Cousins. Leading the swag surf in Atlanta. What is going on down there? Amazing football. That's what's going on down there. And then you have one of the best kickers in the game in Younghoe Koo. So if your team is struggling out of the gate or is not super compelling in most of their games, Broncos, maybe just mix in a Falcons game. Just to kind of balance it out a little bit. Because they're fun. The Atlanta Falcons are fun. But I was thinking about this last night. Because the Jets game was such a, and I keep using this word, and I swear I'm not trying to make a pun, but you just kind of watch the Jets game away. Because it's like, you can't even, what are you going to take from that first half? Right? It was just it's just gross, that first half, because of the rain. And it's like, I don't know how much you can really take from it. But that's the disappointing thing, because we're trying to find out whether the Tampa game for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos was real. And watching, Atlanta in Tampa last night, watching the end of that game, because I had Air Force soccer, and then I kind of went back and watched, I had the game on in the background a little bit. I don't know. There might be something wrong with the Tampa Bay defense. A couple weeks have passed since the Broncos played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think the Broncos just caught them at the right time. And I don't know if the Bucs defense is that good. I mean, Kirk Cousins is better than Bo Nix. Kirk Cousins has more elite weapons, or more talented weapons, I should say. I don't know who on the Falcons is right now elite. But the talent, you think the talent that Kyle Pitts has. The talent Drake London has. Bijan Robinson. I don't know what to make of that guy. But the talent is there, you think. But the production, I think, would show, okay, if Bo Nix can do X, what he did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then yeah, Kirk Cousins going to be able to basically double it. So not so much watching the Broncos, and that's why Sunday's game is so fascinating, because it's really, the Jets didn't turn out to be that. To really test and see if some of the theories you had after the Tampa Bay game are correct. This is really that game, but you also watch the Bucs from afar. Like, okay, maybe a lot of teams are going to do that to the Bucs defense. Baker and the guys are humming along. So I do think you can look at what the Broncos defense did against Baker Mayfield and the Bucs and say, Okay, that's because the Falcons didn't stop Baker Mayfield. They got a fumble from Bucky Irving at the best possible time. That was it. But as far as the Broncos offense goes, good timing. It was a good day to have a good day against a team that may struggle this year defensively. And I know that the Raiders aren't a ton better. In fact, they're not better. They're worse. But it's all the more reason why Sunday should look like the Tampa game. That's the point I'm getting to. It should look like Tampa. Why? I can't figure out a reason why not, except for one guy. And that's Max Crosby. Max Crosby out on the practice field today with the Raiders, which is a good sign for Raiders fans that he will play. I can't do anything about the other guy. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Devontae Adams is just being absolutely rude on social media. But it does look like Max Crosby is going to be all systems go for Sunday. And Sean Payton was asked the question. Now, I get you got to ask the question, but you serve up that question knowing that the way Sean Payton is, he may make a big whole thing about it. But here's Sean Payton asked how different the Raiders are with and without Max Crosby.
Well, what do you think? Come on.
I don't want to answer my own question.
He's a pretty special player now. I'm just telling you, his motor, his instincts, his run, his pat. I mean, he's really, 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 one of the better players we see defensively.
Max Crosby is the only thing standing in the way of the Broncos offense having a game similar to Tampa. Because, and I don't want to, I'm not forgetting Christian Wilkins, because that was, as Sean Payton said the other day, that was one of the better free agents. I love the free agent signing of Christian Wilkins to the Raiders, but he's a different player if Max Crosby's not on the field. So now you have Crosby to worry about. Then Wilkins becomes more effective with his presence. That's what's stopping the Denver Broncos. So it will be a great test for this offensive line that everybody is praising, even with Alex Palczewski in over Mike McGlinchey. And what they have done, no sacks for Bo Nix. Run game has been there. Like, they've done a good job. But that will be put to the test with those two guys on the Raiders' defensive front. But if they can keep Max Crosby from wrecking the game, which I fully understand has happened before, it is entirely possible that Max Crosby wrecks the game. But if that's so, then okay, what do we think about the Broncos' offensive line? If they can keep him held down a little bit, keep him from going crazy, it should look offensively for the Denver Broncos like it looked against Tampa. And if it doesn't, and they're able to keep Max Crosby from going crazy, then we got to have a very, very different discussion come Monday. But when I look at this Raiders team, and we don't know if he's 100%, Max Crosby's 100%. But unless you're telling me Max Crosby completely wrecks that game, the Broncos offense should look like it did 2 weeks ago. Take your thoughts on Sunday's game. 719-24-7. 1313. Just getting going with this Friday edition of the show. Coming up next, about some Air Force football tickets to give away, maybe, And we got our first look at Russell Westbrook with the Denver Nuggets, and it went kind of how you might expect. Tomorrow morning, Air Force takes on Navy, looking for the first of the 2 wins they would need to reclaim the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Kickoff at beautiful Falcon Stadium. The brand new section on the east side looks awesome. Upgraded game day experience, certainly from years past. So if you haven't had a chance yet to head out to Falcon Stadium, boy, is this the game to go to. And I'd like to help facilitate that if I could. If you would like 4 tickets to tomorrow's game that kicks off at 10 a.m., just text Falcons and your name to 719-247-1313. And the 13th texter will get 4 tickets to see Air Force host Navy tomorrow. You may have missed it, and it's funny. We don't look at preseason anything the way we look at preseason football. So I'm going to try to strike the right balance when I discuss this, because it is, after all, preseason. But the Nuggets played the Celtics this morning in Abu Dhabi. And I would say at this point, the 2 players that you're most interested in seeing how they look are Jamal Murray and Russell Westbrook. At this point, like, you'll dig into Dario Saric, you'll be curious about Julian Strawther and Christian Brown. But based on the way you left the Denver Nuggets at the end of last season, based on what they have done since then, I would say it's Jamal Murray and Russell Westbrook. At least that's what I would say I was most looking out for. It also went about how I expected. And I don't know that that's a good thing, other than to say it's preseason. Jamal Murray, 1 of 4 from the field. So, nothing there. And then you had Russell Westbrook. Played 18 and a half minutes. And what they will tell you on social media is that he hit 3 of his 6 3-pointers. 3-pointers have been a bit of a point of contention when it comes to the Denver Nuggets because of what they have lost in that regard and how they ranked in the NBA. So the fact that Russell Westbrook hit 3 of his 6 3-pointers, you're going, okay. Those were the only 3 shots that he made from the field. He was 0 of 4 from everywhere else. Finished 3 of 10. Had 8 assists, 4 rebounds. So, yeah, this idea that Russell Westbrook is secretly this great shooter that no one has been able to unlock, I'm not buying that. You would like the shooting percentage to be a bit better. Let's take one of those threes, maybe move it to the field. That stat line for Russell Westbrook, it's fine, though. Like, it's okay. 3 of 10's not great, but it balances out because he's not going to shoot 50% from 3-point range. Right? So split the difference. 8 assists, 4 rebounds. That's what you want Russell Westbrook to do. I know he's going to look good playing with Nikola Jokic because everyone does. Everyone looks good playing with Nikola Jokic. But that's not what they need Russell Westbrook for. They need Russell Westbrook for when Nikola Jokic is not on the floor. And that kind of a stat line is what you would love to see. I'd take that every night for 82 games. Making an impact, knocking down some shots, rebounding, assisting, getting other guys shots. That's what they need from Russell Westbrook. The Dario Saric thing is kind of a different animal because you're not asking Dario Saric to produce on a second unit level like Nikola Jokic performs with the first five, right? But you're looking for him to play that same role so the Nuggets can have similar personnel out on the floor, run some of their same actions. But if we take what they do with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, it can be a bit similar with Saric and Westbrook, except Westbrook, I would say, would take the vast majority of the shots or do the vast majority of the playmaking, whereas with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, it's more Nikola Jokic, right? They're playing the same roles, but Jokic facilitates a bit more. I don't need to tell you all this. You've been watching this team for years. If I could get that 82 games from Russell Westbrook, that is exactly what this bench unit needs. They just need someone to drive the bus with the second unit, somebody to be in control of what they do. And there are going to be nights where it's going to be, hey, Russell Westbrook, go do your thing, man. And that's fine. That's okay. They need someone on the second unit to be able to take charge and say, this is my show, because they haven't had that. Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, young. Reggie Jackson, as much as I thought he was going to be, not quite the answer to that. And then, playing DeAndre Jordan as a backup five doesn't really work either. So I actually have a pretty high optimism level when it comes to what this second unit of the Denver Nuggets is going to look like. And all I want Russell Westbrook to be is what Russell Westbrook has been. Right? I don't need him to unlock something. To me, that's normal off-season training camp stuff, right? So-and-so's in the best shape of his life. So-and-so's never felt better. So-and-so worked on this aspect of their game. I'll wait and see if that's true. At Russell Westbrook's age, you just need the guy to be himself. He was a fine contributor to the Clippers. The problem with the Lakers is he didn't fit with LeBron and Anthony Davis. That was the impetus of all of their problems, and he got unfairly blamed for it. Why I like the Russell Westbrook deal is because I've been watching Russell Westbrook since he left Oklahoma City. Nuggets could use that, but to make him out to be this dead-eye three-point shooter or something that he's not at his age, I just think it's counterproductive. A bit more efficiency, but I like what I saw from Russell Westbrook. Dario Saric, 2 of 4, 3 rebounds, an assist. Christian Brown only taking 4 shots, albeit in 13 minutes. Jokic did his thing. Was it 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, didn't play the entire second half. I didn't watch the Nuggets and say, okay, championship. Right? But I saw I saw a lot of what I expected. Some positive, some negative. But when it comes to Russell Westbrook, they could use that guy. Even understanding that 3 of 6 from 3-point range is not going to be what he is. But it is one preseason game, and that's what I'll say for, well, I'll say that for everything, right? Because, you know, Russell Westbrook needs more time to see how he truly fits with everything. And Christian Brown is not going to seize the role of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in one preseason game. It's going to take him a little bit to grow into that role. And the starters were done after, about 15 minutes each. So it's a starting point. And then I believe they play on Sunday again? See if there's any improvement. But I'll take that Russell Westbrook. And then the obvious other question that comes out of this is this an NBA Finals preview? Jason Tatum the other day had said that they were expecting to see Denver. I believe it was Denver or Oklahoma City, I think is what he said. But are we going to get the matchup that we thought we were going to get last year? Because we were geared up for it. Right? Nuggets, Celtics, let's go. Didn't happen. Only one team lived up to their end of the bargain. And I do expect, and I know just watching the Nuggets from this past season, I know the task ahead for the Boston Celtics is difficult. But until I really see it from Giannis and Dame, I think Boston is going to come out of the East again. You have to be wary of teams that win the offseason. Not to say that they won't ever be successful, but for it all to come together, and I'm talking about New York specifically, and to a lesser degree, the Sixers, but the Sixers have a whole host of other concerns that I would have when it comes to that basketball team. But with the Knicks, I love the Knicks roster. I love the acquisition of Karl Anthony Towns. I think it's going to work. But we just saw this a year ago with Damian Lillard and Giannis. Right? It doesn't immediately click. And even though Karl Anthony Towns is not going to be as much of a focal point or as leaned on as Damian Lillard was last year in Milwaukee, it's still going to take time. So I feel this about the Knicks, and I kind of feel this way about Oklahoma City, that I think they're very close. I think we may be a year early on those two teams. They're definitely both of them have staying power. Both of them are among the 5 best teams in the league. Okay, so this is not a knock whatsoever on what Oklahoma City or New York have, but, I don't know that the scar tissue has quite built up enough for those two teams to push through, especially with how motivated the Denver Nuggets will be after a summer of not being champions. I still think Minnesota's really good. I just think that they're an easier matchup for the Denver Nuggets. Still think they're one of the best teams in the NBA. You have Boston in the East. But I love what Oklahoma City and New York have. And in this age of the second apron, they are both in very good shape. They're in very good shape moving forward. So they're going to have an advantage over some teams being able to manipulate their roster a bit more. Boston, I certainly feel more confident in right now than I do the Nuggets. And watching the game today, I'm still there, right? I got to see what's going on with Jamal Murray. If he's right, if he's back, then yeah, I think we're getting Denver-Boston. And it won't matter as much how good the second unit is and Russell Westbrook and all this. Christian Brown stepping in for KCP. It starts with Jamal Murray. If he's right, I think the Nuggets get to the NBA Finals, but there is a real question mark there. And at every juncture when it's like, okay, as it, oh, it's overblown what was happening with Jamal Murray. Well, tell me what I should be looking at to say, oh, you're right. The Olympics, today's game, what he said to us at Nuggets Media Day, like I've gotten no indication at any point since Game 7 that Jamal Murray's right. So I got to see that. If I see that, Nuggets Celtics. Because we deserve it. We deserve Nuggets Celtics. And I'm not just saying we as people who have a vested interest in the Denver Nuggets. I'm talking about the NBA. The NBA deserves Nuggets Celtics. Celtics, I think, barring a catastrophic injury, are there. Because I can't. I'm never going to believe in Philadelphia. Milwaukee, I think, will be better, but are they good enough? And the Knicks, I think, they're going to need a year where they probably fall short of the NBA Finals till they're really ready to go. But I love what the Knicks have done. So on one side of the bracket, I still have Boston. If Jamal Murray's right, I'll take Denver. If not, I think I would go Oklahoma City. Even though I think that they need to build up some scar tissue. Maybe it is Minnesota. Maybe Minnesota gets a gift and somebody knocks out the Denver Nuggets. Two teams, I believe it's the same two teams. We'll play again on Sunday out there in Abu Dhabi. If you watched the game this morning at 10 a.m., good for you. Should be celebrated for watching a basketball game at work. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, Air Force Hockey opens their season tonight against Arizona State, and this is a fascinating clash of, I won't say clash of styles necessarily, but I'll explain further. It's a very interesting matchup these next two nights between Air Force and Arizona State as they get their seasons going tonight at Cadet Ice Arena. It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, not that one. Fall right now. You kidding me? Take fall over Christmas season any day. And we want to help you make the most of this season with a $1,000 fall fund. We'll pick 5 winners to each take home $1,000 to spend on whatever your idea of fun is this fall. Head to extrasports1300.com to enter for your chance to win the $1,000 fall fund sponsored locally by Hope Online Learning Academy. Congratulations to Craig. He is the winner of the remaining 4 Air Force Navy tickets that I have in my possession. But if you're a hockey fan, when it comes to the Falcons, hang tight. Tonight, Air Force opens their season. And something that for as long as I have been covering this hockey team, which has been a while, obviously over the last couple years, I've been a part of the Altitude broadcast team that's done various Air Force hockey games. But even before that, when it was just the show, I know that when Air Force is at its best, according to Frank Serratori, they are deep and they are old. I think they're the former. I think they are. You have a lot of guys that had flashes last year in limited roles that are back this year. Owen Dubois is a name that immediately comes to mind. He's one of the players I'm most looking out for tonight. And Tyler Mon and myself will probably talk a little bit about him tonight on Altitude. He really busted through last year on one of the lower lines and had an impact. And from what I have heard from Frank Serratori and others, they like the freshman class that they're bringing in. So I do think they have depth, but they are not old. This is a team that lost quite a bit to graduation. So what I think the storyline is going to be tonight, tomorrow, and really the first month of this season is just who's going to take the opportunity. There are opportunities almost throughout this roster, right? Whether it's, second power play, second penalty kills, second lines, third lines. There's a lot still kind of up in the air. Not a lot of spots and roles are really cemented for this Air Force team. And I'll use Owen Dubois as an example from last year. If somebody, the opportunity is there for someone to bust through. If somebody has a big weekend against the 20th ranked team in the country, you better believe next week in Vegas, they're going to have a bigger role on the team. So there are opportunities everywhere for this Air Force team, and they're going to need, here's the other side of the coin, Air Force is going to need guys to seize the opportunity. And Frank has talked about this on every platform that I have heard him over the last few weeks. A big part of this team, what they are focusing on, they got to be better 5-on-5. They got to generate offense 5-on-5. They were too reliant last year on special teams. They were very good on special teams. But how much of the game is played on special teams, if you really think about it? If you have two pretty disciplined teams, was that 2, 3, 4 times a night you're going to get an opportunity? And if you're putting all your eggs into that basket to generate offense, it's not going to work for you. So being better 5-on-5, and if you're going to listen or watch the games this weekend, or you're headed up to Cadet Ice Arena, that's something to look at. What Air Force does 5-on-5 is going to be a big key to their success this season. What I really like about Air Force is that they are strong up the middle, right? There's the center position is stacked. It is deep. They have guys that are awesome in a face-off dot all throughout their lineup. You got Chris Hedden on the blue line, conference preseason all-Atlantic hockey type player, and then you have Guy Blessing. That is where they are old, is in goal in terms of experience. Guy Blessing's still a very young man, but that's a guy that has a ton of experience. And I think while these opportunities are being seized, at least Air Force hopes these opportunities are being seized, they're going to lean a lot on Guy Blessing. And they did this last year, right? Guy Blessing rescued them a few times. He was kind of the backbone of this team. They're going to ask him to be that even more so early on until they figure out roles, until some of these younger guys that are getting bigger roles or playing their first minutes of college hockey get their feet underneath them. Guy Blessing is going to be very important to this team's early season success. But we know historically that Air Force figures some things out in October, November, December, and then they go in January. And I would expect this team to follow that same pattern. If Air Force, and I think they're going to outpace the preseason predictions because they always do, it seems, January is when they're going to go. So there's going to be a lot of experimenting, a lot of hypotheses that are kind of thrown out. Is this guy play well with this guy? What about in this role? There's going to be a lot of that going on. Hopefully they can get some results to build confidence and kind of show them that they're on the right path. But this is going to be a team trying to figure it out until the holidays. And then January is hopefully when they have all of it ironed out. And then they hit the bulk of the conference schedule, as they tend to do, with a bit of a vengeance. Now, as far as Air Force's opponent the next two nights, if you follow college hockey, you know about this Arizona State team. Maybe you don't know about the players they have, and I'm going to tell you about them here momentarily. But you know this program is going to pop. The Arizona State is going to become a national power. They're not this year, but they're trending in that direction. They didn't bring hockey out of nowhere in Tempe to be a meddling team. They joined the NCHC. That means they mean business. They expect to compete. If they wanted a cakewalk, there are other conferences that they could go to. They chose to be in the NCHC. They want to play at the highest level of college hockey. And they have brought in players that will help them do that. They have 7 transfers that came into this team, and every single one of them was not just, hey, a guy that was recruited by a bigger school found himself on the outs and now he's in Tempe. They got dudes that produced. One guy I'm watching tonight, Cruz Lucius. He is a transfer from Wisconsin. He is an NHL draft pick. This dude had 34 points last year for Wisconsin. But you look at some of these other transfers, Providence, Penn State. UMass Lowell. Like, Arizona State has brought in some big time transfers, and they look to be a really high-powered goal-scoring team. But that's where the clashing of styles, if you will, comes into play. Air Force is a team that's trying to figure out where their offense comes from, but they know exactly what they have between the pipes, and they love it. Arizona State has all the firepower that they need to compete in the NCHC. They don't know who their goaltender is. They don't know. So it'll be fascinating the next couple of nights, especially with these two teams just coming together for their first games, how that's all going to play out. But ASU's got a lot of firepower on paper, but they have a big question mark in goal. Air Force, flip it. Flip the equation. So I'm excited for this one tonight. Again, Tyler Mon and myself will have the call at 7. You can also hear Dave Toller and Jay Ritchie, as you can all season. Call Air Force hockey games right here on Extra Sports 1300. Now, tomorrow, they also play ASU. And I would like you to be able to go to the game. I just told you how fascinating this series is. You think I'm going to say all that and not give you a chance to go and see it firsthand? Of course. So text Air Force and your name to 719-247-1313 just to differentiate from our football ticket seekers earlier. Air Force in your name, 719-247-1313. The 13th texter to do that will get tickets for a pair of tickets for tomorrow night's game at Cadet Ice Arena. Let's see. One other item of business that I would like to get into, because college hockey is here, and you know what that means? Soon, pro hockey is going to be here. Next week starts in earnest. Colorado plays Vegas on Wednesday. Time to lock in those futures bets on who you think is going to raise the cup. And the best place to do it, Circa Sports Colorado app. They keep as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments. They do not limit players based on their winnings, and games strive to be a minus 110 split, unlike other sports books, which tend to be a bit more liberal with the minus 115, minus 120 splits. It all adds up to just a better experience. That's why they say it's better for the better at Circa Sports Colorado. Do what I did. Download the app. Make it your sports betting app of choice today. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this fine Friday afternoon. Appreciate you watching the show on a daily basis. We get more and more people that have chosen to consume the show that way, and I am forever grateful. And quite frankly, most of the time I'm shocked. I really am. The amount that I see people listening, watching, it continues to shock me every time, but I greatly appreciate it. You can watch the show live on a daily basis. Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, the handle is all the same. At XTRA Sports 1300. Broncos and the Raiders on Sunday. I'll say this. Kudos to Denver. You know, one thing that I know, right? Never heard me say that. But I'm not talking about the football team. I'm talking about the ownership. I'm talking about the Walmart conglomerate they got going on up there. Not only are they going to be playing in these amazing, and even as a non-Broncos fan, I can appreciate just how gorgeous the uniforms the Denver Broncos will be wearing on Sunday are. They're phenomenal. And yes, they're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with the Ring of Fame and all that. But if you watch, and you've seen some of this stuff perhaps on social media, like the whole stadium, the whole field level is going to be different. It's not just going to be the uniform. So they're really going all out. And that's one thing that has been a staple of this Broncos ownership group. You know, you take, while the team is finding their way, and they certainly showed that they're willing to do whatever it takes by bringing in Sean Payton, and reportedly he's like the highest paid coach in the league now that Belichick's out, or one of them, near the top of the list, right? But while Sean Payton and company get things figured out on the field and the product hopefully improves, I feel like this ownership group has taken the easy wins. And it's not to say easy, like I don't want to minimize how much money they're sinking into it. Like you may say, well, they're billionaires, so what? Like it's still their money. It's still a high level of investment and still a lot of money, right? So I'm not trying to say give them Nobel Peace Prize, but I mean, give them a little credit for sinking the amount of money they have into the organization in a really short time. But they replaced the field. Remember when they first took over, replaced the field, build the giant scoreboard, the new training facility. You know, they've obviously invested to make all of this happen with the new uniforms and the throwback unis and all this other stuff. So look, there's only so much an owner can do. And ultimately, the product on the field is what's most important. If the Denver Broncos are good, they could play at High Plains Elementary School here in Colorado Springs for all anyone cares, right? But in the meantime, you're showing your fan base like, look, we're investing whatever this organization needs to be successful or to provide a better experience on game day, we're going to do it. And they're going to do that again on Sunday. So if you're lucky enough to have tickets to Sunday, I hope you enjoy your time up there at Empower Field, because it does seem like the Broncos are doing a lot to make your experience a good one. Now, again, ultimately the thing that will dictate how good of a day you have at Empower Field, if you are a Broncos fan, is whether the Broncos break this losing streak against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, as the Bo Nix story continues and opens up its next chapter Sunday against the Raiders, there was a theme today up at Broncos practice that I picked up on. A lot of questions about receivers and tight ends. Sean Payne was asked about Greg Dulcich yesterday. Today asked about a variety of different receiving options because the reason, you and I have been talking about it. Offensive line has looked good the last couple of games. Bo Nix looked good against Tampa. Javonte Williams looked good against the Jets. More of the things you thought the Broncos would have or hoped that the Broncos would have, to say nothing of the defense, which has been the story. But all this other stuff that either you hoped or thought the Broncos would have kind of starting to show up. But what remains is, outside of Courtland Sutton, who's catching passes? Who's going down the field and catching passes from Bo Nix? And running backs don't count. Right? Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, maybe they can catch passes. They're not Christian McCaffrey, okay? You need tight ends, wide receivers. Where are these other guys? Because against the Jets, and I know a lot of it is you could just chalk up to the weather, but the stat line of only Courtland Sutton doing anything is not what you want to see. And it kind of emphasizes your fears about this Broncos team. And that's, well, they don't have many weapons in the passing game, which eventually is what you hope they are good at. Such is the way of the world in the NFL. Still got to be able to throw the ball. All the talk about the two high safeties and all that kind of stuff. Still got to throw the football through the air. At least 10 yards downfield. Broncos haven't shown yet that they have anybody outside of Courtland Sutton that can do that on a consistent basis. Yesterday, Sean Payton says that, or 2 days ago, I'm sorry, says Greg Dulcich's integration and utilization in the offense is a work in progress, which is, a super confidence boost. How long has the guy been here? And then he was asked about Marvin Mims. About perhaps, is he just a return specialist because he has all of 2 catches this season?
There's a lot of guys we'd like to get more catches. So, again, you're giving me a statement. I'm telling you his role. I mean, I go through the script with you. And so he's very important to what we're doing in a lot of different ways. So we'll continue to use him, and I'm glad we have him.
That was about Marvin Mims, but you could essentially copy and paste his response to when he was asked about Troy Franklin. And what he said about Devon Vele was that he'll play sooner rather than later, I believe. He's been saying that, like, setting aside Franklin and Vele, right, because they're rookies, Sean Payton has been saying the same thing about Marvin Mims for a season and a quarter. The last 21 games, the 21 games he has been in charge of the Denver Broncos, he has been saying, we got to find Marvin Mims more touches. We want to get him touches. We want him to be in the Broncos offense. And yet it doesn't happen. It appears that he is just a returner. And I would absolutely draw the same conclusions, that that's what Marvin Mims is on this football team to be. A return specialist. Like Devin Hester or an Eric Metcalf. Obviously, to varying degrees, but that's what those guys were, right? They were return guys. That's what it seems like Marvin Mims is. If there was, and this is where I'm going to defend Sean Payton a little bit. If what he saw from Marvin Mims was giving him the idea that he should feature him more, he would. He can say all he wants that they want to get him more touches, that they want to get him more involved. Okay? If he was doing what he needed to do for Sean Payton to have confidence in him, he'd be getting more touches. He would be out there more. At least we can grant Sean Payton that, given his wealth of experience. I get the whole Bo Nix thing. That's new for him. Okay, there's a 60-40 chance, I would say, that 60% he does, 40% that he doesn't actually know how to develop a young quarterback. I feel like that's where I'm at right now. I think he can, but there's a fair amount of skepticism that I have with it, given what I have seen through, again, 4 games. And that could change, right? It should change as the season goes on. But you think that he's never had a wide receiver with Marvin Mims' ability, his skill set? Same with Troy Franklin. Think Sean Payton's never worked with a rookie wide receiver, a second-year wide receiver? I just can't get to the point where Sean Payton has a guy with the speed of Marvin Mims unmatched on the football team. There's no one else on the team that has that in their toolkit like Marvin Mims. Sean Payton can't figure out how to utilize him. He knows how to utilize him. He doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust him, at least in relationship to other guys, like Lil Jordan Humphrey, for instance, who he's coached for many years, Cortland Sutton. It's like the Greg Dulcich thing. He knows what he has in Greg Dulcich, and yet Adam Troutman. So there's only one of two things, and it can change from guy to guy, but there's only one of these two conclusions that can be drawn. Either A, Sean Payton is just so biased towards guys that he has coached in New Orleans that he won't give any of these guys a shot. Or two, the guys like a Troy Franklin and like Marvin Mims haven't shown him enough for him to trust with the stakes that are attached to this season, the development of Bo Nix, and also hoping to kind of win some football games along the way. Doesn't trust them to help to a greater degree than they are right now. And we've seen steadily them get more snaps. I look at the snap counts. They're getting more snaps, but they're not there. And I think at the very least, gotta give Sean Payton a little deference to him and say, okay, he's worked with young wide receivers before. Some of them have absolutely turned into phenomenal receivers. I think you got to put some on the player. Right? And it's not to say that Marvin Mims is terrible or Troy Franklin's terrible. Just saying, like, they're not there yet. They're not there like a Lil Jordan Humphrey is or like a Cortland Sutton is. You want to force them into the game? You want to force them into the game when Bo Nix is throwing them passes and they're not open or they're dropping passes? Like, you don't think that Sean Payton is looking out for Bo Nix when he makes these decisions on who gets out there? They're rotating him. They're getting him on the field. I think it's on the players. Either they got to show Sean Payton more in practice, or they got to make themselves more seen in games. Their snaps are going up. Their production is not. They're on the field more. They're not getting targets. They're not making catches. They're not making plays. Whose fault is that? But I understand where all of this is coming from. Where it's coming from is you're looking at the Broncos receivers, tight end, wide receiver position group, and saying there's got to be more than this. Last year, it was, well, only Cortland Sutton catches the ball because Russell Wilson can't see 75% of the field, which was probably true. But now it's like different quarterback. Sean Payton can do more of what he wants. Bo Nix is in there, all this kind of stuff, and Cortland Sutton's still the only one getting looks. Bo Nix suffer from the same affliction as Russell Wilson? Does Sean Payton not know how to utilize these guys? Or are they not doing enough in practice or in a game to get their stats up? But you got to find somebody outside Cortland Sutton. Right? You have to. At some point. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts. Broncos, Raiders, your predictions. Does the losing streak end on Sunday? Last year is about breaking the Chiefs' losing streak. Or at least that's what happened. Could have been both about breaking the Raiders and the Chiefs' losing streak. But only one of those happened. One at a time. So is this the year? Is this the day on Sunday that they end their losing streak to the Raiders? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, one NFL wide receiver is being absolutely cruel to a particular fan base on social media, and a soon-to-be NFL receiver is being cruel to another fan base in the NFL, even if he doesn't mean to be. I'll explain next on Extra Sports 1300. 719-247-1313 is the number if you'd like to give your thoughts on the upcoming football weekend or warn me about Vegas. Trust me. I know Vegas. Okay, I know good, bad. I know all of it. Still one of my favorite places on the planet Earth. Brett says, in Las Vegas, you would not be the first person that I met who had nothing but a sleeping bag. So join the club out there. Why don't you? That's all I need, man. And a plane ticket home. But just those two things. Love it out there. I don't know if my son's going to. Because I do really very much want my son to make sure that he's going to a college that enhances his ability to get into his career path of choice. But really, if he gets his college paid for, that means more disposable income, and I would be an empty net. Well, no, I lie. I have one more child after him. But after the other one, empty nester, more disposable income because my kids are getting their entire college paid for. That's more me utilizing the secret. I'm just putting it into the atmosphere. They are my children, and I distinctly remember my parents not having hardly any of my college paid for. Ryan says, my kid's going to college. Damn, we're getting old. I'm getting old. He's still 2 years away. So if you came in at the tail end of it, he's a sophomore in high school. And how do I put this? I got started having children a bit early. Like, that's what I'll say. So I do, go to parent-teacher conferences and football games and things like that. And I am not, I don't necessarily match up with the age group of the parents. I'll say that. So, but I am getting old. I'm almost going to be a man coming up here within the next few months. And that's not in terms of maturity. It's based on what Mike Gundy said all those years ago. So, you know what I was hinting at. That's the age that I'm traveling towards with light speed. At least it feels that way. I saw this, and it's the right call to kind of make a hard right turn. NFL's not going to step in when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa's decision on whether he wants to continue to play football, nor should they. Because first of all, who made the NFL the czar of looking out for what's best for their players? I would actually be more worried that the NFL would step in and urge Tua to play more than I would expect them to try and get him to retire. Although I could be quite callous and travel down a dark road and say that having Tua and the fear that some people will have if he steps back out on the field is not good for the Shield. But I won't go down that road. But the NFL is not going to step in and have anything to say. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. I understand that the NFL is an entertainment product and, the league, these are all franchises and the NFL is like the corporate office. Like, I understand the dynamics at work here, and the NFL could, nothing stopping them from saying anything. But I think it would be wrong of them, one way or another. It goes back to what Mike McDaniel said. Like, it'd be wrong for any of us to go to Tua's face. It's one thing for us to give our opinions on it because that's what we do on a daily basis. But to go to Tua's face and tell him, I don't think you should play, or I think you should play, that's not our place. Certainly doesn't feel like it's the NFL's place, even if they theoretically could. They shouldn't. Should be Tua's decision. It should be Tua's decision alone. And then you hope that Tua consults with multiple doctors and it helps form his opinion. But it's ultimately him that should make this decision. So I am glad. So we'll see what happens with Tua. Still got a Snoop Huntley. Is that where we're at with the Miami Dolphins now? He's going to get another start. Oh, boy. To say nothing of the gravity of Tua's situation, the Dolphins definitely need him. Maybe he's a little bit more than just a system quarterback, because by that logic, Skylar Thompson and Snoop Huntley would have some kind of success. And I also saw this today from the NFLPA, like just out of nowhere. Friday news dump, I suppose. The NFLPA wants there to be no more interviews in locker rooms. They don't want that anymore. They think it's an invasion of privacy. It's awkward. And I'm not going to you could go on social media and see what some current and former NFL players are saying. I'm not going to get into that territory because it's, just not appropriate for this venue, this platform. If the players truly feel like it's uncomfortable being interviewed in the locker room, or at least interviewed in the locker room as they are changing out of their uniform, then I think that there needs to be a level of respect extended towards them. Clearly, they feel like this is something that has bothered them for a while. And I think teams, media should seriously consider what they're asking. However, there is a flip side to this. If the media is to stay out of the locker room, so these players can change into their regular clothes, they can't take a freaking hour. Okay, and I think I'm more talking about certain NBA players. I'm talking about NFL players. There needs to be a trade-off, right? To be able to, these writers are on deadline. The readership and the viewership of these media outlets want it immediately, and the players have to understand that without the interest in their league, they would not be being paid millions of dollars. So they have to respect that side of it. There's an immediacy that is expected in today's day and age of sports media. And if you want to not be interviewed, just as you're getting out of the shower or whenever that is, okay, but there needs to be like a stopwatch here. Like, if you're going to have some kind of a media scrum outside, or you're going to sit at a press conference table, that's fine. But you can't use that opportunity to try and wait out the media. And I know some players are going to try and do that. Oh, you can't come and talk to me in the locker room, so I'm going to escape out the back door. Or I'm going to wait you out because you're on deadline and you'll be gone, and then I'll emerge. Again, a very beloved NBA player in this state is notorious for taking forever to be ready to talk to the media. I think that if this is a serious ask, I think it should be very much considered. Because I can't put myself in their position and say I would be wholly comfortable with a slew of people coming in that situation either. But you need to come out as quickly as you can so you can satisfy your media requirements and you don't use this to sneak out to avoid speaking to the media. And I feel like there would be a fair amount of players that would use that loophole to avoid talking to the media altogether. And that's not okay. But if there's a better way to do this, if there's a better mousetrap, media scrum right outside, is there a room attached to the locker room where these players can still have their privacy but come out quickly? Okay. Let people work on it. That's fine. Gotta respect it, but it's a two-way street. Like, there are things that those people are trying to do, a job they're trying to do, that they need your cooperation in order to do. So there's that. One last thing when it comes to professional football. Denver -3. That's the current line for Sunday. Whether you want to bet on that game or any of the other games on the Week 5 slate, may I suggest you do it on the Circa Sports Colorado app, as I do. They strive to be a -110 split on their app, unlike the other sports books. Use -115, $1.20. A little bit more liberally. They strive to keep as low money as possible on futures, golf tournaments, those large market bets, and they don't limit players based on their winnings. All things you will see on other sportsbook apps. And they're so confident that they have built a better experience for the bettor. That's you. That they invite you. Download their app, compare. Don't just immediately delete the other one. Compare, contrast. That's what I did, and that's why I'm using Circa Sports Colorado for my sports betting. Download the Circa Sports Colorado app today. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. Gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. I got to head up to the academy. Catch me and Tyler Mon for Air Force hockey against Arizona State at 7. And enjoy your weekend. Talk to you on Monday here on Extra Sports 1300.